to another edition of Morning Market Call. I'm your host, Doug Mumford. Today with us, a very special guest, Carine Clark, Chief Marketing Officer of Symantec Corporation, the third largest software company in the world. Thanks for being with us, Carine.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So this is really fun. We were talking before the show, and Carine is going to give us several pointers to what a marketing student, but really any student, but we'll talk about marketing since she's a marketing officer, things you need to know as you're going out embarking on your career from the Marriott School. So the first thing that you mentioned to me is assertiveness. Why is this important, especially for BYU students?
Well, I'm surprised how many students, and you know, for me, BYU students, they're the brightest, right? It was really tough to get into the program here. And I'm surprised how many students are not aggressive and assertive when they leave the program. That they're very nice and they are not willing to fight for the top projects or the top jobs. They don't want to cause any conflict, any problem. And I think that is a disadvantage for our wonderful graduates because they get great jobs, but then they seem to be dissatisfied later because they're much more aggressive colleagues that they have that are willing to maybe even be unethical, which I don't think you should ever do. But I think it's one thing that our students need to be better at, being willing to fight.
You used a term when we were talking earlier. You describe yourself as a cage fighter. What does that mean?
So that doesn't sound really good, does it? I'm a very nice person and care about building things, but I'm also, deep inside of me, is a cage fighter. So I will fight to protect my projects, my people, my team, and I'm willing to fight for what I believe is right. So when someone doesn't agree with me, I'm willing to do what it takes to convince them. And I think people know that there's a cage fighter in me, so I don't get a lot of people pushing up against me. But you need to be strong and you need to be willing to go to the mat for things that are important for you and your team, your projects, whatever it is you're working on.
Yeah. Number two, be brave. What does that mean?
So I am surprised at how many people are not brave enough to either mine for conflict or to raise their hand and say, I'm not convinced, or to raise their hand and say, that's not right, or I don't agree with that. And I see situation after situation where it's just easier to go along with the flow than to be the one to make a tough decision or be the one to make a tough call. So I'll give you an example. My CEO came to me week 11 in the quarter and said, I've got $4 million that I want you to spend. You got 2 weeks, by the way, to do a really good job, get the return this quarter. So I had to make the decision how I want to spend that money. And it would have been easy to just divide it amongst all of the people that wanted money. But I decided to give it to one team in one segment, in one region, put all my chips on one project that would give me the highest return. So there was all kinds of clamoring and complaining about it, but it ended up being the right thing to do. But I stood alone for a long time until the results came in.
So being willing to take risk to some degree is what you're saying, it sounds like.
And being willing to be as good as you think you are.
So you actually mentioned that even on a personal level, that's some of the reason that you feel like you've been successful is because you've been willing to be brave. And what has enabled you to do that? Yeah, I think you mentioned like having your own personal life in order. Right.
So I expect to be fired every single day. and I'm okay with it because I live my life with that understanding. I'm not afraid to be fired. And that gives me the freedom to do the things that are right, that I believe are right. And so I don't get caught up in politics. They exist, and there's all kinds of shoving and pushing and things that happen in a very large company. But I'm willing to do the right thing. And if that means that I get fired over it, then I'm fine with that already. And that means that I live my personal life to where I have enough liquidity, that I have no debt, that I have resources available to me, and that I have a tremendous network of people that I could call up and say, hey, guess what? Remember that job you offered me? Okay, maybe I'll take it.
Somehow I don't think that you're going to have to worry about that anytime soon. But the last thing that you mentioned on this list was know the numbers. And especially for marketing students, I think this is important. Obviously, the finance track students understand this. But why as a marketing student, or why perhaps as an organizational behavior student, is it still important to know numbers?
So I am a unique marketing executive because I live and die by the math. And I'm a whiz kid, so I get statistics, I get logarithms, I get how to use capital, I get the cost of capital. All of the math work that people sometimes shy away from the marketing field, I'm a whiz at it. And I use that to my advantage. So I'm always talking about the return that I get on the projects that I spend. When I was fighting when I got that money at the end of the quarter, I could make my case because the math was sound, because I'm a student of my business. I'm a student of what happens in my marketing. I know all my percentages, all my ratios. I had a finance meeting this week, 1 hour. We do it once a year to just scrub through the plans for the next year. I went in there by myself. I didn't take a cadre of people with me, and I passed with flying colors. And my CFO is like, why isn't everything as easy as working with you? Because I have a handle on my business. And I'm surprised how many students graduate from the program that don't understand that they think they can get away with, look, I'm really creative and I want to be this kind of a marketing person. Even if you're creative, you should know the math. You should be really comfortable and really good at the numbers.
I think you've just made a lot of our marketing students really uncomfortable that thought that they're B+.
I'll make them wealthier if they listen.
Thank you so much for your advice. It's sage, and hopefully we can take it and move forward in our careers. My guest again has been Carine Clark from Symantec Corporation. Catch us at morningmarketcall.org, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and join us next time.
Morning Market Call is brought to you by the Marriott School of Management in cooperation with the Brigham Young University Department of Communications. MMC is made possible by generous donations from Larry Tasjan and Gary Williams. This show was produced by Jeff Butler, David Wood, and Doug Mumford, with line producing by Beth Grimmett. For more information, please follow us on Twitter and Facebook.